Hello, and welcome to our podcast, First John, Verse by Verse, brought to you by Telios. This captivating podcast will detail each verse of the book of First John, which is a valuable source of information about the early church and its growth. Thanks for joining us on this exciting biblical journey.
Hello, I'm William Stewart. Welcome back to our study, verse by verse, on the book of First John. Such a great book. Tells us so much about the Christian life and about Christ also and salvation and what he did for us. We're right at the beginning, verse 2 of chapter 1. Last time we talked about that John is the author of this book by tradition, external tradition, as well as the themes and the writing style, the vocabulary, which is very clearly Johannine, an extension of the Gospel of John, even though he doesn't name himself. He probably didn't name himself or the church or churches to whom he's writing, perhaps to avoid persecution and for secrecy reasons. So last verse, he begins to explain the basis of his authority and the message for which the people of First John received. That it started with Christ. He is the apostle, saw and heard the words. And now in verse 2, he says, for the life, and Jesus was the word of life from verse 1, was manifested, and we have seen it, and bear witness, and show you that eternal life, which was of the Father, and was manifested unto us. So the message received, as we talked about, from Christ, who originally received it from God, from the epistle, John 5, 8, and 17, manifested through Christ to the apostles, including John. So the life was manifested with Christ on earth. He saw it. Once again, he's repeating this, that he saw it with his eyes, orao, from verse 1, and bore witness. And again, this is a very important Johannine word, that he is bearing witness to what he garnered from Christ to the readers of this letter. Christ bore witness of God in what he said to him. God also bore witness to Christ. And we'll talk about this more later in the book. So there's a lot of testimony going on back and forth here, but importantly, John has the testimony of Christ, and he bears witness to the recipients of the letter, showing them the eternal life. Remember, the knowledge of eternal life is really the theme of the book. And that eternal life was with the Father, and again was given to us, meaning the apostles. So what's John trying to do here? He's trying to establish a line of authority so the people reading the epistles can have confidence in what they're reading. There were a lot of false teachers out there. So they're getting this letter from the apostle, so they know that's important, and they must have known who John was. But he's, again, stating his authority as the apostle, having gotten his words from Christ. And Christ then, as we know from the John Gospel, received it from God himself. And so this is what he's manifesting to the recipients of the letter now, all about eternal life, the life that is in Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is important. He's establishing that relationship between John and Christ and God, and that relationship, the basis of fellowship, and the relationship with the recipients of this letter. And that's really the theme of the first chapter, the establishment of the fellowship, the establishment of that relationship between John and the recipients in Jesus Christ and salvation. And that'll give a basis for the remaining, or the next 3 chapters really, of the book, and how we assess people in terms of their salvation. And and how they're doing in the Christian life. Okay, interesting material. Join me next time, and we'll continue in chapter 1 and describing then the basis of this important book. Thanks for listening. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast, 1 John, Verse by Verse. We hope you found the teachings both interesting and informative. Join us next week for another exciting episode. To listen to all episodes, please visit our website, teliosresearch.com.